Well, thanks for following along on these episodes here. In the first episode, you saw how we took a big unit, 600 square miles, and we cut it down into a couple hundred square miles. And then in episode 2, the prior episode, you can see how we pretty much ended up with a bunch of that 200 square mile area wiped out and said, we're not hunting there. Here's the place we're going to hunt. And now, in this episode, we're going to take you even tighter into the area. We're going to find what I call are the spots on the spot. In other words, where within this unroaded area are post-rut public land bulls likely to be. Let's find what this really looks like. Now, once the contour lines are in here, it starts painting another picture for you. With the contours, where are places that either distance or topography are going to be comfortable for elk? And I'm going to look and say, well, are there any old burns here? Ooh, look at that. There's an old burn right there. How can I tell? It's clear. There's not thick brush. It's dark. Where's some other old burns? Looks like this burn right over here. All right, this drainage burn. Okay, this side of that mountain burn. And sometimes these aren't like torched out burns. When you get into ponderosa forests, like down in Arizona, New Mexico, somewhat in Colorado, somewhat in Utah, these ponderosa forests will burn the undergrowth, but the big tall stuff will still stay intact. Okay, there's a burn over here that I saw, and this had burned right here. All of a sudden, my map's starting to look pretty obvious of where I'm going to be. Well, the fact that I'm this far away from roads and trails tells me that these areas, this big block here, has a lot of security cover. So now, within this area, where are the places that provide the other needs? Food, water. Well, these burn areas that I'm talking about here, that's going to be the food bank. That's where they're going to eat. And it's right adjacent to their sanctuary bedding areas. They only got to travel 100 yards, 200 yards, and they're in food. And the fact that there's water down in all of these drainages solves that issue. This general area right here, this is going to be primary spot number 1. Now, I'm going to go do this same thing with other areas of the unit that maybe I'll come back and renumber this number 2 or 3 or 4 based on what I find in other places. Right now, this is my number 1 spot. Right here, I'm using just this big block of Forest Service and using topography and distance as a sanctuary. If I was in, say, Wyoming, Colorado, Montana, places where you have a mix of public and private land, boundaries also create a sanctuary. Now I'm like, okay, I know these spots on my map. Where's going to be the easiest way to get in here in the dark? Well, odds are I'm probably going to drive up this road and I'm going to catch one of these ridges. And which one of these ridges gives me the ability to glass the greatest number of places? Well, if I get on here, I got about a mile to get up here, and I'm going to gain about 1,000 feet of vertical in a little over a mile. Pretty steep grade, enough to thin out most hunters. So if I get to this point, I'm looking at my map over here, all right, I can glass this basin, I can glass this basin, and I can glass this basin. So I can glass 3 of my 5 locations from one spot. I know based on what I just saw, I want to get right here. This is where I'm going to be glassing opening morning. And I know this was the spur road, it ends right down here, so my idea of how I think I'm going to come up here is to catch this ridge and go up there. Probably gonna park right here. I know this is a road that comes in there. I've also looked this over and said, you know what, if I get right over here, this is another option where I can glass this drainage from that divide and I can glass across to this drainage. Now that I've done this in this unit, I'm gonna take this whole process from start to finish and I'm gonna go to another general area, just a general location in this unit, somewhere nearby. And I'm gonna repeat this process. I wanna have 5 more spots so that when I head down there, I've got a total of 10 spots on the spot, as I call them. So that maybe something goes snare wire here. Maybe drought has changed things. Maybe there's a lot more hunting pressure than I expected. Maybe there's just a lack of elk there. Well, I wanna, if my camp is right here, say 3-4 miles away, I wanna have another spot that's not too far away that I can kind of repeat this whole process. And out of 10 locations, 10 spots on the spot, I suspect by the time I get there and do my scouting and hunt for 5 days, I'm gonna find elk in 3, maybe 4 of those spots. If I'm lucky, maybe it'll be the first spot. So anyhow, thanks for following along. Next episode, we're gonna show you how we implement this plan on a day-by-day, step-by-step basis once we get to the hunting area. Thanks for watching.